Prayer.
Let us pray. Father, we come this morning thanking you for blessing us to see another day. Allow us to come out, Lord, to conduct the business of the county. We thank you for this privilege to serve. And Lord, we ask special blessings upon our nation, our state, our county. And Lord, we ask a special blessing upon those who are sick and in need of your blessings. We ask these blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'll call this meeting to order now. We've got an agenda in front of you gentlemen. We've got a couple of changes we need to make. Under the new business section 5, let's see, TC's here. We won't remove that. We were going to remove number 5, but we didn't have no planning board member would be here for that, so TC's here, so we'll go ahead and keep that in. Also, we'll add a closed session. General Statute 143-318.11A6. Also, we'll need to start our closed session at 12 o'clock. We got our attorney coming in at 12 o'clock. We need to try to get as close to 12 as possible. So we made an appointment with him to come over here. Nothing else, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, next on the agenda, we've got the approval of the minutes. We've got two sets of minutes we need to approve. First is the September the 5th meeting minutes. The evening meetings for September, what date was that? 16th or 17th. We had an evening meeting, the 17th, which is actually a continuation. And then we had an emergency meeting on September the 26th. Are there any adjustments to the minutes that need to be made?
We had one noted correction that's been discussed.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the September 5th, 17th, and 26th emergency meeting minutes.
All right, we got a motion to have a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Next on our agenda, we'll start with our first set of citizens' comments. Okay, first one is Mr. Dan Lang.
What I've got to say probably would be better a little bit later, another meeting, but I'm facing a heart procedure, so I figure I better say it while I got the opportunity to come here. We've had 4 years of pushing for progress hard. I'd say a racehorse pace. It has upset a lot of people to make changes so fast. They've dug the heels in. But what we need is not a racehorse type movement, but more like a draft horse. Strong, steady pull. And I want the more commissioners that's staying on and the ones who will be elected to keep this in mind and try not to push things too fast because it upsets people. There's no way we can make up for 100 plus years of lagging behind in one term. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Next, Mr. Gene Brecker. Could you identify yourself and address, please?
My name's Gene Brooker. I'm with McLean Contracting. We're located in Baltimore and Chesapeake, Virginia. Chesapeake, Virginia is the office I work out of. It's 100 Republic Road, Chesapeake, Virginia. We're down here doing the bridge work for the US 13 widening project,
Okay.
and we're trying to get a variance and a special use permit for a temporary construction trailer. It'll be located, the lot that we would like to locate it on is 255 Highway 13 South, and it's just south of Uncle Vern's Body Shop that's out there now. It would be a double-wide temporary office trailer on site. It would be there for the duration of the project. Our substantial completion is November 2014 right now. We're doing both Buckhorn bridges, the Chowan Bridge, and the overpasses on US 45. And we'll, of course, keep the site neat and clean. We want to be a good neighbor for the community while we're here. And we were just looking for any assistance in expediting the permitting process so we could mobilize to site. We have paid all our fees for zoning and special use, plumbing, electrical, building permits. We're just looking to be able to mobilize as soon as we could. So.
He's to contact you, Morgan.
Yeah, I've got them covered. I've got the public ads submitted. They're on the track for the Board of Adjustments for this month.
Okay, well, keep us informed of what's going on, and we'll stay on top of it.
Thank you.
What date is the meeting, the Board of Adjustment meeting?
When is it? Third Tuesday of this month? That's the 16th, I believe, 1 o'clock. We did the same thing for E.V. Williams, so I don't foresee there being an issue.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for coming. Next, Mr. Earl Rountree.
Earl Roundtree. I know, Graham, you got a tight schedule, and rock season comes into James River tomorrow, so I hope I'm not bothered to come back till next spring unless I have to. First of all, let me touch real quick with something, and Renee and, I can't see good today, I know that's Sandy too, but they're both here. But several months ago, I paid my water bill online, e-banking. And it wasn't then until I paid it 2 days early, but I didn't realize that the Gates County was not able to do e-banking. And so I ended up with a penalty, which the penalty, I told Henry, didn't break me up exactly, but I went without a couple of meals, and which I needed to. But anyway, I mentioned this to Renee, and she mentioned to Sandy, and I talked to Sandy. But if I'm right, Sandy, it was $2,500 to sign up, and
approximately $375 for support, software support, and I believe 10 cents per transaction. And that was emailed to all of the commissioners last month.
so I don't know if this requires commission action or Sandy and Renee can work it out. But e-banking is something that's going to be growing. It's not something that's shrinking. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you don't use it, when you pay, it's like a credit card. When I type in and I hit finish, that money is almost automatically transferred back to the county and it's taken out of my account. So if I wait to the last day, which I probably wouldn't, but in case I was in the hospital, I didn't pay it. So that's all it is. But if it takes board action, Henry, I'd like for you to look into it, the rest of you. But Sandy and Renee all know about it, and if you need any questions, they can answer them. Real quick, at the last meeting, Mr. Hoare presented 2 PowerPoints, and one was about the water department and about reading the meters every other month. Well, it was a detailed explanation, but I'm going to give the Earl Roundtree explanation, and Johnny, if I'm not right, you can tell me. But basically what you're going to do, you're going to take my water bill and average it out. And if it's like $35 a month, 1 month I'll receive a bill for $35, which is an estimate, and the next month they'll read my meter and I'll catch up. And Johnny's figure said it would save maybe $35,000. I don't think it'll save that much money. However, I see absolutely nothing wrong with that, because in Dare County, you get 4 water bills a year and it works fine. But people in Gates County don't want to do that. At least it wouldn't make no difference to me, but some people don't. But anyway, I think that what Johnny said is so simple that anybody ought to be able to understand it, and y'all ought to be able to do that if Renee and the Water Department and the commissioners agree. I'm not going to get into Johnny's presentation too much on the $50,000 payment of the loan and saving the $12,000, but having talked to a couple of you, I think you really don't really understand. I think maybe Jack Owens understood and Johnny understood, but it is complicated with dealing with money. But the reason a lot of people never have any money, they don't think about money. And I think about money all the time. So, you know, I think if you go back, I really think, Henry, you need to go back and take a look at this. If you don't understand it, Johnny probably could explain it to you, but if we can save money by paying $50,000 up front, that's no real problem. My problem, of course, with county stuff is I look at balance sheets from businesses, and county accounting and business accounting is a little bit different. But one thing that I do know is that if you're getting less than 1% return interest on your money in the banks, and you're paying 2.989%, there it's about a 2% differential, and I can figure that in my head. And you know, we're in a situation that I've never been in before, and in all these years, because normally interest rates, treasury notes, bills, what have you, you get a profit above inflation. And we have now for 4 or 5 years, everybody is losing money. And we're losing about 2% a year, which may not sound a lot, but between inflation and what we're getting, we're losing 2% a year on our fund balance. Now, we all know we got to have a fund balance. That's not the problem. But the problem is, let's keep a close eye. We don't need a fund balance any bigger than we have to do until interest rates go up and we get in a better situation. And I think that's what Mr. Hoare has been preaching about, because we are losing money on it because of that. Now, as an individual, I get around that because I got a lot of money, well, a lot to me, $25 a lot, in telecommunication stocks, utility stocks, which all are paying me between 7 and 4.5% interest. So I'm above that inflation level. So the next thing is, I'm doing pretty good, Graham, long list. You know, we've had some problems hiring in this county. In many cases, we have completely, and I'm going to be very frank on this now, Graham, and Henry and the rest of you, and y'all won't hear, so I'm not blaming any of you. But we have people, local people, that were not even given the courtesy of an interview for the county manager's job. Extremely qualified people that wasn't even given, because apparently it was a done deal. And as y'all go to look at a new county manager, I think that one of the first places you need to look is local people who have roots here, who are going to be here for a number till they retire, people who we know are not using it for a stepping stone to move up. And I asked you to please look at all the applications, but if we can hire in-house someone with a proven record that we know who she is or who he is, and we can get it done, please do that. And in closing, you know, I don't know whether or not I'll get out Sunbury alive on this, but we got the county commissioner race coming up in November, and we're not really used to having a November race. But I had looked at the situation at hand, and I looked at Henry Jordan running, and Henry and I had some very rough patches. One of them was Henry and I talked about, I didn't know what was happening, and I don't think Henry knew what was happening, but we handled it like men. We didn't stay mad the rest of our life. We talked about it and got it straight. Henry's been here his whole life. Henry pays taxes in the county, has for a long time. Henry's been a registered voter, I guess, Henry, ever since the day that you could go register. I'm sure knowing you that you were down there registering to vote as soon as you could. And I think that if you sit down in the public and everybody and look at the fact that what we have here, I think Henry is, after getting over the rough patches, I think that he's done a great job. And I'm going to vote for Henry Jordan, and I'm going to vote for Mitt Romney, but I'm going to vote for Henry Jordan. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Earl. All right, next on the agenda, on the list is Sidney Pierce. Hello, Sidney.
Hello, Commissioner. Good morning. My name is Sidney Pierce. I'm a Republican candidate for the Hosler District. This morning, I was going to talk about all of the many failures of the Democratic Party, but one thing I got to think about is there's just too much to talk about within a 5-minute span. So I'm just going to mention this one point, and that's in regards to the fact that the Democratic Party has been in control of this county for well over 130 years. And out of that course of time, today, our county remains one of the poorest counties in the entire state. I don't know about anybody else, but that's a sign of failure to me. And that if we want change, if we desire economic growth, we're going to have to wipe the slate clean and elect new people in November here. With that being said, I would like to also talk about the Republican ticket in general, and that these are the individuals who I am supporting, I am endorsing, and will be voting for in November. For County Commissioner in the Sunbury District, Thomas Hill. For the State Senate District, Mr. Bill Cook. For North Carolina Auditor, Deborah Goldman. For Superintendent of Public Instruction, John Tedesco. For Secretary of State, Ed Goodwin. He is also a county commissioner over there in Chowan County. For Lieutenant Governor, Dan Forrest. For Governor, Pat McCrory. And for President, Mitt Romney. And I would also like to add, in regards to the fact of John Tedesco, that he is running for Superintendent of Public Instruction, and he has endorsed my candidacy for County Commissioner here. He is currently a member of the Wake County Board of Education. He has done many improvements in regards to the education system in Wake County, and I look forward to him serving as superintendent and hopefully making much improvements in regards to this state. With that being said, I do wish good luck to all those who are running for office here, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sidney, for your comments. All right, next on the agenda, we're going to move into our department reports. First on the, you were down at the bottom. You were, oh, okay, all right, I see. I thought you were, Thomas, sorry, I was looking at you for the second set of comments.
Ladies and gentlemen, County Manager, County Commissioners. Very quickly, I want to mirror what Sidney has said. We're looking at 130 so years. I've been told personally 132 that the Democrats have been in charge of this county. And those, Mr. Roundtree, that have roots here, I'd be concerned with that. Dealing with Mr. Jordan, you, sir, have been unclear on several issues. You, sir, have not publicly supported nor denounced the opportunity for high schoolers to have a junior ROTC. Me and Mr. Pierce came personally asking for you all and your support, or at least to go on the record for you denouncing it. You, sir, have remained quiet. As far as the assessment of the homes, we saw that the assessments went up. You, sir, have also been quiet on taxation. It has been unclear if we are to vote for or against you. What is your position on that? As far as the library, you, sir, was against it, and I give you credit for making a stand. However, you turned right around and voted yes for the 1.5. So you put our children in debt, and you put the county in debt. for something that you originally was against. And finally, on June 6th, I personally, sir, came to you and asked you to clarify these issues dealing with the county. I challenged you personally to a debate. And again, sir, you have said nothing publicly. You have not endorsed nor denounced any of these issues publicly. You have made yourself unclear as to whether you stand for or against it. Before I go into my final two questions for the county, I would ask, sir, that you would personally state your position on these matters.
Henry, would you like to make a statement? If not, we'll move on.
Well, I could address several of them now. Mr. Hill, I have talked with the superintendent, Dr. Barry Williams. The Gates County superintendent has submitted an application for a junior ROTC program at my urging and at my finding the right contacts to do that. There's a number of things that has to be done in order to bring a junior ROTC program in the county. The instructor, we understand, is provided by the military, but the county has funds that they have to put up to match those costs. That's in place. You may want to talk to Dr. Williams. As far as taxation, it's been my objective for the last 4 years to maintain our tax rate relatively low. We have not had a tax increase in the last 3 years. We have not done that. So taxation is something that I've been vigilant on and trying to make sure that we do not increase our citizens' taxes. As far as the library, what we have to understand is that as commissioners, the majority dictates as to how we go forward. When we voted on the library, we voted 3-2 to move forward. I was not against the library, but I was looking at other options. We went forward on the library. At that time, you had to make a decision of how you're going to finance it. To vote against financing is only a political move. I voted for the $1.5 million at 1.77%, which was the best deal that we could get. Sure, I want to do that because, first of all, you have to go forward with the library because of majority rule. And now I want to get the best rate for the citizens of this county that we could get. So all of these points, you know, that you bring up, there's no question as to my position on them and how I have addressed them. And I will continue to be vigilant in serving the county and providing the best service and decisions that I can do. And as far as the debate, Mr. Hill, normally when you're going to set up a debate, you have issues that you want to debate on. I think the things that you bring up, there are issues where positions are already established, and just to have a debate for the sake of having a debate, it doesn't, you know, really. I don't see any credibility in that, and so I hope you have gotten some type of understanding as to my position. I admire you for wanting to serve as county commissioner. It's a great responsibility. There's a lot of decisions to be made. You have the interests of all the county at heart. So, you know, I admire you for that. But as far as moving forward and trying to establish a debate, I see no need for that. If you wanted to get one up, you know, that's fine. But I have no initiatives to try to move forward with that.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thomas, you got anything else?
I have two final questions.
Okay.
In 1984, after a span of Democrats ruling Congress, the House, the presidency, Ronald Reagan came in for 4 years. And he challenged that status quo. And he asked one very important question. And I'm going to ask you commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, those people watching at home, I'm going to ask one very important question. Is Gates County here locally better off than it was 4 years ago? And I'll ask an even more important question. Speaking to the individual, are we as individuals better off than we were 4 years ago? Approaching $8 million in debt here in the county? I would say no. I am personally not better off than I was 4 years ago. And that's why I put my name in the hat, asking permission for you all for 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. All right, that's the last of that. Next on the agenda, we'll move to our department reports now. Our first one is Miss Sandy Pittman, I'm sorry. Don't hit me, Sandy. Let me call you mister.
Been called worse, Glenn. It's okay. Good
Today,
morning.
right?
What'd you say?
Today, right?
Probably, yes. Yeah, that's okay.
I'm blinded by the pink. Y'all say I'm blinded by the pink.
That's right. Some of us appreciate your pink support. We have several budget amendments this morning. I believe there were two that came in late. You all should have had those on the table when you got here, number 17 and 18.
Okay.
Okay, we'll start with number 13. This is to simply break out the budget for IT support from the office supplies budget for social services. Jeff and I discussed doing this just to keep it clear and make it easier to track for them, for their reporting purposes. Number 14 is to reallocate the budget for the elections department. They're anticipating maybe bringing in a temporary employee during the director's absence to prepare for the upcoming election. Mr. Sears brought this to us and asked us to process this to make those funds available to do what they need to do. Number 15, during budget time, the Albemarle Resource Conservation Development Council did not get us their budget request, and because the county has moved into a different tier, the funding level has changed. We didn't realize that till the invoice was received. I've contacted them. There was a breakdown in communication. It's only $450 additional, but I wanted to bring it to you all to make you aware and to make sure that you all are okay with this. Apparently, they'd had some turnover, so I don't think this will be an issue next year. They've got things in place to make sure that we don't have this issue again next year. Number 16, Billy Wynn had received a grant late last year that was not expended last year. We need to bring that money forward so that he can spend that this year. Number 17 is to reallocate the budget for the refinancing of the USDA notes that was accomplished last week. The total cost ended up being about $3,300 more than we anticipated. We had to pay the accrued interest up front, and we also had to acquire flood insurance on the property. We were not expecting that. When the flood maps were updated back in 2009, the property that building sits on changed, and we're now required to carry flood insurance on that. So that was honestly the bulk of the increased cost. So we've used the reserve budget amount that we had budgeted this year and pulled some of the funds from that reserve balance to cover these costs. Number 18 is a small request from Reba for $104. She had a grant that ran 2 cycles that ended last year, and there's $104 of that grant money that has to go back to the state. And they requested payment by October 19th. We didn't get it till Friday, which is why this wasn't in your packets. I apologize for the late notice. She's requesting that she's can use some of the school-age child care reserve that she has from that program to send this money back. Any questions?
Okay, gentlemen, you got any questions for Sandy on these budget amendments?
Sandy, on number 17,
Yes, sir.
on the flood insurance item there,
Yes.
was there Was there a selection as to the amount of coverage? Was it dictated to us?
It was dictated by BB&T. We had to have the maximum amount because of the loan amount.
Did
So-
they procure that for us?
No, we had to do that, but it's a federal program, so it was basically, this is how much you need, this is what it costs, and you can either pay it or not have it. It was very cut and dry.
Commissioner Owens, we went through the association, who does our insurance, and they recommended who we used.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
I have a question. Mr. Sears is Mr. Sears here? I don't see him.
I have not seen him this morning.
Okay, I'm looking at the, that $3,500 for the Board of Elections.
Yes.
And that's for additional staffing
Yes.
in the absence of
I believe 4 years ago, we had to do the same thing. We were in a turnover period, and they brought in somebody from Wilson, I think, with experience to assist with the election. The director is out right now on medical leave, and in this time period, they want to make sure that they're doing what needs to be done. So they'd like to bring probably that same person back to assist with the setup and to make sure that the preparations are done properly with the upcoming election.
Okay. I met her, she was from Wilson.
Okay, I thought so.
All right.
Any other questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve the budget amendments as presented.
So move.
We'll have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right.
The other item that I have for you is the grant project ordinance for the Urgent Repair Program grant. This is the grant that was received in conjunction with the Housing Committee for $75,000 to perform urgent repairs on houses in the county. This is required because of the way that the grant is set up. We have to have a separate project fund for this. This is basically the same project ordinance we've used for the other grants as well. The total is the $75,000, and there are no county funds, matching funds involved in it. This is strictly grant funding.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the project ordinance for the URP grant of $75,000.
I have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Thank you,
Right,
Sandy.
thank you.
Anything else from you?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
I want to ask you a question before you go away.
I'm sorry.
You want to ask me a question?
No, I was going to say that at the last meeting, I asked Sandy if she would provide an overview of our fund balance and what the projected outlays were for the coming year and the future years, and that was submitted.
Yes, sir. That was emailed yesterday.
And I've looked it over, and as I've said in the past, I'm not against paying certain amounts of money against our loan debt because obviously it's good business practice. But I was concerned that we didn't want to extend ourselves too much so that if we needed to do some other things that we didn't have that excess funds to do that. But after having seen your projection, and I'll say to Commissioner Hoare, yes, I would be in support of doing a $50,000 or $100,000 pay down on our debt in cards that we have right now.
Okay,
But I just want to
And we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes and addressing that. And I appreciate you doing this, Sandy, because these are the things that I was looking for right here with this
sir.
$704,000. And in a few minutes, we're going to talk about it. And but I do appreciate that and show how this really evolves. And this thing that we're looking at is talking about expenditures that don't address the revenue side of unforeseen things, and which we'll talk about that in a minute. But thank you.
thank you.
Sandy, the question I wanted to ask you was about the e-banking that was brought up by Mr. Brownson.
Yes, sir.
Just touch base on the process, and is that something you think that we need to look into really close?
Okay, and that's up to you all. I forwarded you the proposal from Logix. There's $2,500 upfront for setup fees, believe about $375 or $400 a month. Per year, I'm sorry, for support costs. It's 10 cents per transaction. So if we do something like that, we probably should get Timmy involved because the cost would need to come. This is not for tax payments, it would be strictly for water. I'm not sure, Renee would have to research anything for that, like that for the tax, but this is strictly for water through our water software. So that would be up to you all, if you want to spend that money and make this happen. I don't know if you want to talk to Timmy or if we can maybe set up a meeting with Timmy first, but that's the information that they've provided me. I'm not sure how long it would take to get it set up, but that's the quote that she provided me, and that's what the cost would be.
Okay.
And Sandra, this $150,000 at the top, we've already appropriated that. I know we talked about it.
No, sir, you all have agreed that money will be spent. Some of that money was set aside in reserve, an informal reserve, but you all have told Renee to release the RFP. This is an estimate. We obviously don't have any bids yet.
Right.
But that's the money that you all have already informally approved to spend for that software.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Sandy.
Okay.
All right, Renee?
Good morning.
Good morning, Renee.
You have a copy of the collector's report in your file there. It is a little different than the one that you were emailed. The only changes are with the figures in the September outstanding levy and August previous levy. We had some issues with our formulas that were in our cells there, so we have corrected those. But outside of that, nothing really out of the norm to report unless y'all have some questions. No questions?
Renee, since we brought that up, I'm going to go ahead and talk about what we've been discussing here.
I would ask, how are we moving forward with Zacchaeus?
We are in the process of getting some more files to him, and we are preparing those, and we will send y'all a spreadsheet as to the accounts that have gone to him. And also, I have gotten an updated list with where things stand from Travis Ellis with the accounts we have with him and what his fees are. And we have a few questions about a couple of those, and once we have finished compiling that, we will get that to y'all as well. And y'all can make some decisions from there as to how you want to move forward with those.
Got any estimate of how many accounts he's going to have?
Zacchaeus?
Right.
Right now, it's probably maybe between 30 and 40. With the letters that we had sent out, we do have quite a number of people that are on payment plans with those, and what we will be doing is reviewing those every other month to see if they are making those payments. Those that are not will go on to Zacchaeus, so this will be an ongoing thing. And then, of course, when the 2012 comes delinquent, we'll look at those accounts that are 2 years delinquent and go with those.
On this, and I talked to Renee about this, on this form, and I've been saying this, and I sent you a graph, and I got Renee to go back and get tax receipts over the last 3 years, and I did those back quarterly and plotted the graph and showed you the cash receipts of how they're coming in. On this form that here in the last 3 columns that I had drafted here, what this amounts to is this. And you see with what Sandy did as the negative impacts on fund balance, but you're not looking at the positive impacts on fund balance. Well, here it is. And it's the same thing I've been talking about going on, and this is when you go out and try to get people collect your money. Well, in the third from the last column is the budget amount at 100%. Well, when we budget, we put in 95% of expected receipts. Well, so in that third column is the 100% money that we expect to have. So if you take that budgeted amount minus the September outstanding levy and divide that, which is the percent that's been collected, by your budgeted amount, you start getting these percents. As you see, in 2008, we got 99%, 99%, 98.79, and 96. This is ongoing. We get the money. It just takes longer than 1 year that you appropriate it in. So in just these 4 years here is an extra $718,000. That money has gone directly into fund balance. That's what's happening. That's how we've been able to pay for this $640,000 to Kavanaugh and $100,000 to LSP and these grant money. Where do you think it comes from? That's where it's coming from. This is where the money comes from. You get your you're never going to probably collect 100%, but we're doing real well. We just don't do it all in 1 year. We don't get but 95% in the current year, but it keeps coming, and it keeps rolling and rolling and rolling over. So right here, just looking at these 4 years, there's an excess of $718,000 of increased revenue above the budgeted amount, period. That's how your fund balance grows. That's why, and if you go back and look at those expenditures that we're looking at, they offset each other. That's exactly right. So in reality, the fund balance changes every day, down and up. Cash flow statements do that. That's what you do when you do monthly cash flows. Any business has to do that. A business does not have, they have years that they budget losses rather than profits. Where does it come from? Well, do they shut the doors because they're going to lose money? No. They got retained earnings. That's what fund balance is. That's why this becomes an important item when you're doing budgeting, that you look at your fund balance and everything you have available and look at your cash flow. And this shows you right here, just in these 3 years. But I can show you, if you go back, and I'm going to get Renee to do that, and put these other years in here and see how much excess cash above our budget did we generate. Where has it gone? It's gone, quote unquote, for these funny items that we'd like and we want. That's where we spend the money from. So that's why you look at those kind of things on the negative side and on the positive side. But the number one case you want to be looking at is that you are making money. And that's why the refinance thing makes so much sense. $1 million to Gates County. I just want more. And there's more available. But none.
Mr. Commissioner, what are you trying to convince us of?
I've been trying to get it voted.
Well,
I know you voted, and I appreciate that.
We know these numbers.
Yeah.
And every dollar that we spend comes from the fund balance.
Yes.
In some form or another.
That's right.
And we've done the refinancing, so
Yeah,
we're in good shape there.
Okay.
And we're listening to your comments in the past about paying the debt down early, and you're getting some headway there, so.
Amen.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay, very good.
We're going to work on it again soon. But anyhow, that's what I want you guys to understand, that budget is a budget. It is nothing but a budget. It's a target tool. But you live in the real world of what you do. It's about what you take in and what you spend. And, of course, some of our people in Washington, D.C. haven't understood that yet. That's why today, as soon as a child is born today, his first breath, he owes the government $50,000. That's terrible, absolutely terrible. And people get confused with the number of zeros out there that we have. Right now, the government is taking in about $2.3 trillion. They're spending $3.8 trillion, so we're losing about $1.5 trillion a year. Well, they doing budget cuts, and they cut the budget about, I think it's $38.5 million. Well, that gets people all confused. Well, let's put it in real perspective today that you can understand. It's like me making $22,000 a year and spending that $38,000 a year, and I decide I want to cut my budget, and you know how much I cut out of my budget? $38.50. You can't make it like that. That's why this refinance thing is so important, because you make high returns for little pain. And I hate to keep harping on that, but, it's a mathematics and economics thing that a lot of people don't, and I think Earl hit it right dead on the head with what his comments were about how you pay attention to actuarial science and your finance. And we all need to be diligent on that, and it's the best thing that you can do for your child is to teach them that early, because there's a lot of credit card debt and kids just get overboard. And I'm off my soapbox, but it is important, extremely. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Renee, have you got anything else for your?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, in your folder, you have a bid for a piece of property that the county owns. This is a 1/4 of an acre that is located off of NC 37, just north of Gates. I do have a map. For those of y'all that know that area, it is off of the highway. It's kind of in the area across from Mr. Gatlin's Chicken House, for those of y'all that know the area. The bid that came in is for $300. This is not something you have to act on today. If you want to wait till your next meeting, I think it'll be fine, since you're just hearing about it today. But the bid that came in was for $300. What our cost was at the courthouse steps was $4,638.84. Of that, only $498.35 was taxes. The rest of it were attorney fees. You can either accept or deny the bid. If you denied the bid, we just let the individual know it has been denied. If they choose to put in another bid, we go back to square one. If you accept it, we post it for 10 days to see if it's upset.
Does this particular person own any land around it?
No.
Just the 1/4 acre in the middle?
There is a recorded right-of-way
In that
to
1/4 acre?
to that 1/4 of an acre,
Okay.
but you can't really see it on the ground.
What is the tax value on this property?
The tax value is $7,650.
So we're looking at approximately what, $40, $50 a year taxes?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Well, board, we're not making anything off of it as it stands now.
That's correct.
We've spent $4,000 in attorney's fees. It's not something that's really marketable. Did we put signs up, or when we did?
We didn't on this piece, because in order to do so, we're going to have to put them on someone else's property.
Mm-hmm.
And most people aren't real pleased to have a foreclosure sign on their property.
Yeah, we're not, obviously, we're not going to recoup what we've invested in this property.
Probably not.
But $300, and going forward, we can collect another $40, $50 a year.
It will go back on the tax rolls for 2013.
Exactly. So I would motion and be in favor of moving forward, accept the bid, and let's get this 1/4 acre off of the uncollectibles.
Who are the adjacent property owners, Renee?
I don't know if I had that information, Dane, or not. I know Mr. Godwin owns a piece back in that area, but I don't believe his adjoins it. And
The amount of acreage again was?
1/4 of an acre.
Does this have a right-of-way?
There is a recorded right-of-way to it, but it's on paper at this point.
Is there a structure on there now?
No,
Has there ever been a structure?
not to my knowledge.
Okay, so it's not a buildable lot in any, okay.
Will never be a
Is-
buildable lot.
Is this a Zacchaeus or is this from Travis Ellis?
This is from Travis Ellis.
Okay.
So is it, have timber growth on it right now?
It's grown up. I wouldn't say timber.
Big bushes.
Well, I was looking at this, and
when you look at it, you really, it would be your thoughts that it's just part of another lot when you look at it.
Mr. Jordan, was it a motion?
Yes,
Actually, he was saying in favor of it.
I'm in favor of it, I would make a motion, I will make a motion once we do
let's-
discussion.
Okay.
Can we evaluate this a little bit?
That
Yeah,
would be
you don't-
my-
you don't
my
have to make a
suggestion.
decision
Evaluate-
today.
Evaluate a little bit more
I
myself.
mean, I don't want to, but honestly, it depends on how you,
It's not eating anything now, right?
No.
It don't cost us nothing sitting
No,
there, right?
we've already spent the money, so.
The money's already spent, so we're
The
not
mon-
gonna
the
recoup
money's
it.
gone.
I would be more in favor of leaving it like this for now and to talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah,
And
I'd
and
like
if
to-
you have any questions between now and the next meeting, if you'll just let me know.
Because I would
and
imagine
we'll
that
be-
the neighbors would be willing to pay $300 for it if they knew he could buy it for $300, and I would be a
Well,
little more
that's
in marketing
possible.
it.
Well, you could set it out in Timber and make $300.
That's right.
I mean, over a period of time,
You
about
get, you get the
15
motion
years.
on the floor, though.
You know, he
Well,
didn't say he'd
well,
make one, he
the-
said he
the-
would make a
No,
motion.
he said I'm making
And
the
the thing
motion.
about it is,
Okay, wait a minute, you got a motion on the floor then.
you know, what is our plans in going forward? Are you giving Renee directions to contact the surrounding landowners to see if they're interested? I mean, because
Well, we've already
spent-
done that
we've-
twice.
Yeah,
We
we've
couldn't
spent
get them to the courthouse steps.
Nearly $5,000 of taxpayer money. We've got a piece of property we can't do anything with. We've got a $300 offer and a potential of going forward with $50 a year. I mean, you know, and it's gonna take you quite a while to recoup that. But, you know, we're not in the business of collecting property. If someone's not paying their taxes, we get the property, we get it off the rolls and we sell it. So, I mean, if we got a plan going forward that's feasible, and you say you've already contacted the surrounding landowners, I mean, I really don't see, I don't see any use of spinning our wheels and saying, you know, let's just look at it and let's kind of sit on it for a while. We're costing taxpayers money every day we sit on it.
One question, Renee, is it was put up for bid, is that right? I mean,
It went to the courthouse
went to the
steps,
courthouse
yes,
steps.
and we were
All
the
right, now,
ones that ended up
do
with
we
it.
have a legal right to post a price on it that we would sell it for, say if we decided we wanted to sell it for $2,000?
At this point in
Is
time,
that-
you
we can
own
do
it
it-
just
we
like
own
you
it. We
do
can do pretty much
anything
what we want
else.
to with it.
I think you would have to declare it as surplus. This was the steps that y'all had put in place previously as far as getting rid of any properties that the county owned was to go the bid right. And I know Toby and I studied that
Yeah.
at the time, and
I'd hate to just go off the cuff on a
Yeah.
procedural matter like that, but I think the answer to your question is yes, you could list it at whatever you wanted to list it at. The short answer to your question is yes.
All right, we've got a motion.
Excuse me, I will say, if it helps in making a decision, that if you do accept this bid, we have to post it for 10 days. I have no problem in my office notifying the adjoining landowners that this bid has been made if they were to choose to up it. And I will remind you also, we've had another piece that we did sell this way that we made money on. So, not enough to make up the difference you're looking at here, but
All right, we've got a motion on the floor that we accept the bid for $300 for this piece of property. Do we have a second?
Second.
Well, that answers that question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. I can live with that, it's unanimous. It's
if
not-
anyone would like to upset the bid,
I give-
contact my
I'll
office.
give you $400 for it now.
That's on tape, Graham.
No,
Madam Clerk,
But we do have 10 days upset bid.
Commissioner Jernigan
Any of y'all want a piece
and
of
Commissioner
property?
Owens both want to be listed credit for that second. Boy,
Evidently,
takes a
they're tired of
long
listening
time
about
to do
it.
things.
We aren't offering a commission on this, so.
Earl,
That's,
you want a piece of land down there about a quarter of an acre?
That's what I need, a useless piece of quarter of an acre.
I don't have anything else at this time, but to touch on the electronic banking, I know we are talking about water, however, it's my office that has to deal with that. It would help in employee time as far as processing those checks. It would also help in the employee that is in my office and sometimes my own employees, because they have to do a lot with water, in not having to listen to folks like Earl when they get a penalty. And I'm sorry about that, Earl. But it takes time, it takes time. But it would help in the processing time, and I think, too, we might see even more people, not a huge amount of people, but I think we would see a few more people maybe use the electronic method if that were the case, if they knew it was.
My question, and maybe just obvious to me, why would we not and could we not do it with taxes?
It's because of the software.
I mean,
That is
we're
something.
we're looking at new software. That's part of the
Right,
expenses
so
that we're dealing with.
that is something, and
mean-
with your new software, even if we updated what we have, it would be with the same type of environment that we could easily do that. I mean, the environment that our software is in right now is very antiquated.
Okay, all right, well, that's the question I had.
Yes.
Do one part of the county and not do all of it, that would be interested part of it.
But I would like to see it considered. I do think it would certainly be a convenience to the water customers and eventually the taxpayers. And I do know that this is something that Roanoke Chowan Electric not so long ago put in place, which I appreciated when they did personally, because I deal with them. So,
Okay, thank you, Renee.
okay, thank you.
All right, next on our agenda, Ms. Morgan Jethro. We have a public hearing for special use permits. That's an interesting little square of land, though.
Good morning, y'all.
Morning.
I will try to keep this as short as possible. At the August 2012 meeting, the Planning Board voted 3-2 against the proposed text amendment to allow manufactured homes, both singles and doubles, in the R1 district. While this may be a quick fix to a long-standing problem, I strongly encourage the Board of Commissioners not make this drastic change for the following reasons, and I'll just try to summarize. Permitting the manufactured housing in the R1 zone does have the potential to degrade the village centers and will lead to a reduction of property and home values in the most populous and popular of areas. Secondly, you also degrade the historical significance of those village centers and remove the continuity of the existing housing and ruin the potential for those villages to establish historical districts in the future by allowing this hodgepodge of housing options. There are proven correlations between the establishment of national or state historic designations and a significant increase in property value, as well as the marketability and sale potential of the property. I also gave you an attachment that proves that correlation. According to my research from Camden County, who is our closest neighbor and with similar characteristics as us, their villages have a designated overlay district that they call a community core, which does not permit manufactured homes in the village centers but encourages commercial development. Currituck County does not permit single-wide homes, only double-wides in these areas. I would strongly encourage the Board of Commissioners to take the route that Camden County has and allow the Planning Board time to get back to work designating these prime commercial corridors that we started off doing some time ago, and create the community center overlay within these districts. The issue of manufactured housing has been an issue in Gates County since the inception and adoption of the zoning ordinance in 2007. And while I will agree that the document has made it quite difficult for citizens to construct manufactured homes, the Planning Board and I have made great strides to the process to make it less convoluted for these citizens by creating text amendments that permit manufactured homes to be replaced irregardless of time and if they go for an upgrade or downgrade. We are trying. The Planning Board and I agree that adopting this text amendment will be just a quick fix and a rush decision for a problem that has never been dealt with properly. By allowing the change to the zoning ordinance, there will be far-reaching negative effects to Gates County other than a reduction of property values. The quality of life for its citizens will diminish, and the marketability of their property on the real estate market will become substantially more difficult. And in conclusion, based upon the legitimate reasoning provided by the Planning Board and I, we encourage the Board of Commissioners not to make a rash decision that cannot be undone without substantial controversy in the near future, and permit the Planning Board to get back to work, creating a community core overlay district that will promote and encourage commercial development along our major highways.
So are you saying that you're not in favor of manufactured homes being allowed in R1 districts at all? Because, and the reason I say that, I ask you that, is because you mentioned a community core. Camden County allows double wides in their, from what I just saw.
That's what it says.
It says they allow double wides in their community core.
Currituck does.
Well,
I must have made a typo. I do
Currituck.
apologize.
So your plans is to go back and just strictly look at commercial and not consider R1 at all? I mean, manufactured homes in any R1 situation?
What we would like to do, if you would all grant us the time, is to create these overlay districts in the community core that I'll show you right here. In the core districts of course, York, Core Peak, Sunbury, and Gates. And in these community cores, we will encourage modulars, stick-built homes, and commercial development. It's a major thoroughfare for most people who come to Gates County. We want to encourage positive growth there.
Well, that's what we submitted to you, was that within the core area, that manufactured homes would not be allowed. So it sounds like that you would look at how to implement that, but you would still be considering allowing manufactured homes in other areas that's not in the core.
The plan, I'm sorry, sir, go ahead.
The thing about it is that it looks like we're eliminating the Board of Adjustments. The Board of Adjustment, when you request put in for a special use permit, the Board of Adjustments has to look at all of the issues surrounding that request to make sure that it's a proper fit.
Yes, sir.
And just because you allow manufactured homes in R1 doesn't mean they're going to get it. Board of Adjustment has to decide whether or not it's feasible. So, you know, just to blanketly say, you know, it's going to downgrade is saying that Board of Adjustments, you know, will not have an opportunity to do what they are designed to do. So I don't have a problem with giving you time to come back with overlay community core, but at the same time, I want to make sure that you are still considering the possibility of manufactured homes being allowed in R1 areas.
I would love to have more time to create this overlay district, if you will allow me. The Planning Board did vote, however, against the proposed text amendment to allow manufactured homes by special use permit in the R1 district. They did make their vote.
Morgan, how long would that take to get that overlay that you're talking about?
I want to give you all a quality product and not something just thrown together. September went by like that, so probably I could have you something by the end of the year to present for public hearing. I would want to take substantial time to make sure we have the correct parcels identified in this overlay district. Hopefully we'd have something by the end of the year.
Gentlemen, we've called for a public hearing on this process right now. I think we should go ahead and, with what people we've got here in the audience, and get some input. I have no problem with giving more time. I've been here for 4.5 years, and there's nothing been done yet, so 4.5 more years, 8 years, whatever. Dan's been waiting for something to happen since zoning started, so maybe 4 or 5 more years will be the answer to do it. We're like Dan Lang said, we're backwards, and we just take longer to get anywhere, so maybe that's what we need to stay at. But I still, right now, we've called for a public hearing. I'd like to open a public hearing and get input from the people here in the public today and see what they would like to do. All right, I need a motion to go in public hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, we're now in public hearing to discuss the issue of allowing mobile homes, double wides and single wides in R1 districts by special use permit only. Is there any public comment that would like to make comment on this issue?
I'd like to make one if you don't mind.
We'll get one first. Dan?
I wasn't gonna talk, but being that this pertains to my neighborhood, I'm gonna talk. Now, being you sure allowed me, my name is Dan Bazemore, I'm from the, your district. And, correct me if I heard correct, because I don't have my hearing aid until the 16th of this month. I think that I heard something say that if you put a double wide or a single wide in a community that is zone R1, that it would affect the property values. Did I hear something like that?
I think you heard that a while ago.
All
in
right,
the process.
well, thank you. Well, I'd like to bring it to your attention
Just don't call us used people, don't you
that
people.
it so happened that in the area I live at, 1 acre home lot is valued at $43,000 and some dollars. With a double wide sitting right at you, with a single wide sitting right at you, with duplex apartments right across from your property. And I would say that that is probably some of the highest valued property in the county for 1 acre. Because I heard some of you people make the comment that the land value for a R1 district is somewhere around 37,000 to 39,000. Well, in an area that originally probably should have been designated as RHM1, which that's going to be faced later possibly on your rezoning thing that you got going on. So the statement of saying that it cuts down on your property value, as far as your appraised value of your property for tax purposes for the county, it is my understanding that when we hire an outside source to come in here and reappraise the properties, that we pretty much, the county fathers, pretty much go along with what they recommend. Because most of the taxpayers felt as though that a double price would have been more or less in line of what it should have been as far as the increase in value of their property. Meaning that if it was valued at $17,000, then for the 1 acre of land for a home site at the time would have been doubled to 30-some thousand. But it was tripled in certain areas. So it was not going by the appraised value of a realtor coming there to sell your house, because he's in the market to make a commission. When he sells your property, he or she is going to get a percentage of whatever it sells for. At least that's what they explained to me. And so therefore, the appraised for resale value is one thing by the people that are in it for the money, the county that's in it for the taxes, they're in it for this group to come here and appraise the properties at a higher level and then cut down the dollar value per 100 and tell you they had no tax increase when you paid more money out of your pocket. Now this is what happened. So you got one area you're talking about one thing, one area you're talking about another. So there's two issues really that when you're talking about property values that you're dealing with. One is tax property values, one is appraised value by a realtor. And when they made that thing to reappraise the property, they didn't cut your, if you had a house trailer on a lot in an R1 area, my aunt has one right there close to me, her son. The tax value on that 1 acre is $43,000 and some dollars. So that land didn't go down in value. What went down in value was the double wide itself. because that was on a title instead of a deed. So therefore, the type of taxing takes place different from a title issue versus a deeded issue. Now, if I'm incorrect on that, I'd like to be corrected. So there's some issues that's at hand that if you can say it's going to affect the house value of your house, then maybe the property needs to be reevaluated in communities that's got these trailers sitting around them and downgrade their property. Then that's another issue that becomes a hornet's nest. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dan. All right, anybody else? I saw a lot of hands at first. TC?
Hey, my name is T.C. Vaughn. I live in your area. And I just want to take a few minutes and just give you an example of my situation. In 1980, we had a decision to make whether to build a house or put up a mobile home. I thought about a mobile home, and my wife had the good sense to tell us, let's go in some debt and and build a house. That house that was built in 1980 now is worth triple what it was in 1980. It's gone up 3 times what it's worth. Therefore, the taxes on it has gone up 3 times what it were. And a few years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, my wife and I bought a mobile home. It was already set up on a lot. We just bought the mobile home. The taxes on that mobile home, and it's a 1995 model, I believe, is kept in very good shape. I try to keep it presentable for the neighborhood. The taxes on that mobile home is $40.53 on that mobile home. The taxes on my house now, it will take 41 of those mobile homes to equal what I pay on like one house that I built. So I would like for y'all to consider some of these things, these figures. A lot of y'all say you're all about money. You're thinking about it all the time. Think about this for the citizens, what the investment is in a mobile home, what the investment is in a house, and also for the county's revenue stream, what you get out of a mobile home and what you get out of a house. I'd like for y'all to think about this when you think about these decisions. It's not like you're going to wait for a little while to decide something, but think about this for the county's future. Okay.
Thank you, TC. Next. Linda?
My name is Linda Hoffler. I'm in the Hobsville District, and I'm currently on the Planning Board, and this is my second term on Planning Board. I just would like to say, I don't want to rush to judgment on this. We do have a problem, and we know on the Planning Board we need to fix it. But we need time, because there's a lot of ramifications. Sometimes a quick fix can lead to more problems down the road. Speaking as a member of the Planning Board, and I have talked to various members of the Planning Board, I think it's imperative that we take a hard look at it, not only from the financial part and taxation part, but for the future of the county. I think the last statistics I read in the county, 2007, 42% of our homes were manufactured. How do we see the future of the county? And that's what we're interested in doing. I know there's places that are miszoned. You don't have to tell me that. I know that. I think all of us on the Planning Board are trying to work diligently to try to solve these problems. But I do think it's important to secure these core villages and to let us take a look at those and try to preserve that for the economic future of the county, and then look at the rest of the county. Right now, most of the county is on this map, as you can see, is agriculture. And you can put a mobile home on an agricultural thing. You do have to go through the procedure. I think most of our problem is the fee schedule that you have. We need to look at the fee schedule and get it in line. And I think we have been working on that. Mrs. Morgan, I think, has compiled a chart for you. And I think that's one of the things that we can do relatively easy about the fee part of it. But changing this text amendment, I think, really needs to be studied and studied diligently. Someone has told me from an adjacent county, said, if you do this, you'll open a Pandora's box, and you don't know what's going to come out. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Linda. Next, Chuck?
Commissioners, county manager, members of the county, I'm Chuck Brothers of 485 Drum Hill Road, and also a member of the planning board. And this issue that has come up about the zoning is quite difficult, and I'm going to start with a quote. And I quote, "Zoning may indeed be the most essential function performed by local government, for it is one of the primary means by which we protect that sometimes difficult to define concept quality of life." End quote, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. As I stated at our night meeting last month, I, as a private individual and as a member of the planning board, recognize the fact that we've got issues within the county that is dictated on this map. There are areas that are restrictive to certain individuals that want to do something different or back up in what they have got. I recognize that as a member of the community and the planning board. But I also recognize that you can't fix this in 5 minutes for something that's been going on and on and on since 1999, when the zoning ordinance came in, that effectively has had nothing done to it to address this issue. Commissioner Jordan had forwarded me some information, of which I had brought up at the night meeting in regards to the core areas. And there's one thing that needs to be addressed by the planning board that we have not addressed, and that is the declared center of the village. And my early homework is telling me that 1/2 mile is going to fit in some of the villages and not in some of the others. And I'll use Core Peak as a prime example. 1/2 mile is not going to get you to where I think that area needs to be. I think the planning board needs time to look at this, and I know the concept and the comment has been said, you know, it doesn't look like we get anything done, but, and I'm going to tell you from my heart, we have worked on this, but I'm going to be quite honest with you. It's hard to get both parties, the planning board and the commissioners, to the table to make action. And we have got to come to some point and resolve ourselves that we cannot keep passing this thing back and forth. We are an advisory committee to y'all, and we're also taxpayers in this county. And I look at it as not only how it would affect me as a taxpayer, but how it would affect my neighbor. And I don't think we carry anything to the Board of Commissioners that is not thought through properly. So that's what I'm asking y'all to do today, is to take these comments that have come before you and not act, not make a decision on it today. Empower the planning board to come back to make these areas of Mr. Bazemore's issues that he has been talking about for going on, I know, of 3 years and different things. Empower the planning board to make action, and then let's act on that, because I don't think that we as the planning board are going to bring you a hunk of junk. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Are there any more comments? Joe Green?
My name is Joe Green. I'm also on the planning board. This issue, like Chuck said, and some other planning board members, has been going on for a long time. It's not an easy decision to make. We would like to be given the time to make the proper decision or recommendations to give back to y'all. There's a lot of issues here. It's not going to be easy. We need time to do it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Any more comments? If not, we'll let, hope, okay, I didn't see your hand up there.
No, I didn't.
Go ahead.
But you know me, but I was a little bit prepared from this last night. Graham, when my sister got married, she moved in on a lot on my daddy's land in a house trailer.
Yep.
And she lived there until she got a house.
And she sold me the house trailer.
And we loaded the house up behind a tractor, I think, then with Graham. These are the good old days, before everybody thought they had to regulate every move we make. So Graham come down like on a Sunday morning, I think, and we took the cinder blocks out, and we took it down, we set it up, and it sat there for, whatever happened to it? Finally went away, but this was a long time ago. So we had one commissioner that I know for a fact that bought a mobile home and lived in it. My sister lived in one until she got a house built. And we have what y'all are saying is 100% true in all sides. Everybody's telling the truth here. It's just that it's so complicated because on the one hand, we got people in here that live in very expensive, nice houses in nice neighborhoods who are saying, we don't want any mobile homes that's going to mess up our house values, or we don't get any taxes. TC said that. Well, this is an old argument, and it's a true argument. We know that. Everybody in here knows that, how mobile homes, and especially single wides, are taxed. But then when you look at the other side, at what point do you have the right to tell Graham not to live in that mobile home or my sister to live in it? And that's probably Chuck's problem with saying we got to do this. But one of the things, and this is what Henry had discussed, Henry and I had kind of discussed this, about the rezoning. And one of the things I think, Henry, and you certainly will interrupt me if I misunderstood what we had talked about, was to go back and look at primary use of the county. If it was a primary use, and Dan has been preaching this for some over 50 years, if it's primary use and he can show you mobile home, double wides, whatever, then that should be RHM1. But it wasn't done that way, right, Dan? Somebody come in and put it, they didn't want it in mobile home, so they called it R1. And so I'm behind Henry 200%. But one of the things, and I'm going to close with this because I'm going to let Chuck and the rest of the people worry about that. Like I said, rock season's coming in. But if we tried, I did, and Chuck knows this, spot zoning. Because if we go back and start rezoning the county, we needed a definition for spot zoning. And we had a meeting, it was supposed to have been a workshop, and I went. I went with intentions of getting and finding this out. And I started asking questions. And the chairman told me, well, you can have public comment at the end of the meeting. I wasn't there for public comment. I was there to straighten out this spot zoning. And until we get this straightened out, we cannot rezone the county. We got to know, within a legal bounds, how big an area. And it's got to be done. And to quote the most famous movie quote of all time from Rhett Buckler and Gone with the Wind, I left that planning board meeting, Joe Green. I walked in the house, and my wife reminded me of this today. In my utility room, the big trash can, I took them papers and I threw them in there, and I quoted Rhett Buckler. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. And the other was, Jack Nicholson says, you know, to the point that I don't think y'all can really handle the truth. And I mean, you can take that for whatever it's worth. Thank you, Graham.
Thank you, Earl. All right, if any other public comment? If not, we'll entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Gentlemen, you have any, Morgan, you have any, what's your pleasure on this subject?
On this subject, I think you've heard it loud and clear. I have nothing further to say on this subject.
Thank you, Morgan. Gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman, I do not have an issue with giving the planning board more time.
Do you want to set as a time frame on it, just
I would-
whenever it happens?
I would encourage them to look at all aspects of it, of what we're dealing with, and bring us back a recommendation that considers all sectors of the county. And, you know, I'm very much aware of property values, and I agree with that. But the point has been made that the general statutes recognize as well that a county cannot put in a zoning ordinance that excludes manufactured homes because it is a provision that's set up by our state for accommodating those who are in the low income. So we're not saying we want to make the whole county that way, but certainly you've got to give consideration to all aspects. You know, we want to keep property values high, but we just can't exclude the other sectors of our county. So I'm prepared to make a motion that we allow the planning board 120 days to bring back a recommendation for implementing manufactured home provisions in R1 and also bringing us a community core overlay.
All right.
And also we want to address in there the commercial development that you spoke about earlier as well.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor. Are there any other comment before we move forward?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say in less than 120 days, set the specific date of a meeting.
When is
In
our
other words,
January
that'd be
meeting?
the January meeting or the February meeting instead of just 120 days.
January. I'll modify my motion to the January meeting, January 2013 meeting,
Day or night? Day or night?
day meeting.
There you go.
Okay, I modified the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Thank you all very, very much. One other quick comment. As far as the moratorium that has been in place for a couple days, I've had a very overwhelmingly low response. If you know anybody out there who might have been a chronic complainer or anybody who maybe have mentioned it in the past, please tell them to come see me. I know they have about 60 days now, but I've probably gotten maybe 8 applications. Thank you.
All right, I've got one comment I'd like to make, and this is to the future candidates that'll be taking office, and whoever it may be in December. I challenge one of you or 2 of you who sit on this seat to make sure another 4 years don't go by without having something done that's been going on for 12 or 14 years or more. If you can't do, you need to, I'm challenging you to get that done and not allow it to happen anymore. Because it'll haunt you again in 4 more years. I promise you that. All right. TC, would you come forward? TC, this is a recognition of your service on the planning board. I know you spent a lot of hard that day and night trying to get something done in the year you were there, and it's been mighty tough. I've been there, you've been gone, and we still haven't got a lot of things done. And we thank you for your service. We really do. Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a quick break now. We've got to let Clearscape gentleman set up his presentation, and we'll take a quick break. Belladin, all right. From Clearscape Architect, he's going to give us a project update for the old courthouse. Good morning, Fred.
Red button?
Get red button burning. There you go.
As you noted, I'm here to give you an update on the Phase 1 assessment of the existing conditions of the courthouse building. We essentially have 5 components to the initial study. We're well underway and nearly complete with many of them. Part 1 was to complete an existing conditions survey and to develop electronic base drawings of the entire building, including plan sections and elevations. If you can flip. We're about 90% done with those. We've got everything in CAD, and we will be scheduling one visit back to verify a few items and to get into a few areas that we couldn't quite get into due to bats and some other things like that that have been taken care of.
Bats? You weren't afraid of bats, are you?
I wasn't. Our structural engineer wasn't real happy about it, but. Second item, we are completing an existing conditions building assessment. If you can flip once more. This is essentially where we evaluate all the existing systems and building components for their condition, expected remaining life, and potential repairs needed. These are just a couple of photos from some of the things that we found. A couple of interesting things came up that many of you may be aware of. The original courthouse, and this isn't recorded historically, was a square, and the back half of the courtyard was added at a later date, probably about 1904. So we've done a few initial studies, found some brick joints, found some mix of wood framing that shows some of that. Anyway, that report is drafted, and again, we'll be back to verify a few items in our next trip back. Third item, one that's probably the most interest to all of you, currently the existing conditions structural assessment. We're about 70% complete with that. We've reviewed all of the studies to date with their sometimes conflicting theories on what caused the structural challenges with the building. We've conducted a detailed site visit, and we've gone through a detailed internal evaluation, talked to some other experts in the field. We think we understand what led to the problem, and we've got a couple, at least one, possibly 2 solutions for addressing it that we've already preliminarily reviewed with the State Historic Preservation Office as well to confirm that they'd be acceptable to them. We do need to come back and do a little bit of additional investigation to verify extents of some areas. To do that, we will need to cut a couple of holes, small holes in some places, to check some existing conditions. As part of that, I've got a report here from the structural engineer that identifies the other locations that we'd like to cut small test holes in, if I could distribute that. And then secondly, given that we do think that the brunt of the cause of the problem was due to soil conditions, which I can get into more detail in the final report, one of the things we are going to recommend moving forward is some additional geotechnical testing to understand if the soils have settled and established a permanent condition at this point, or if we still think there's some potential for movement in the future, because that will impact exactly how we implement or propose to implement some of the structural repairs. That is not something that needs to occur as part of Phase 1. That can be as part of Phase 2, but I want to make you all aware of that. And then finally, a couple of related items: an initial study or analysis of potential programming uses for the building, as well as associated funding. You can flip to the next study. Next slide. We are about ready to embark on the stakeholder process to evaluate some initial thoughts we've got internally and from talking to some other folks in the area. So we'll be getting back in touch with staff in the very near future to set that meeting up. One of the things that I did want to talk about, just as an example, since there have been a lot of emphasis in today's meeting on financial status of the county, wanted to bring one example project to your attention. If you could flip to the next slide. For projects like this, there are obviously a variety of opportunities for combining public and private partnerships, treating it only as a public project or treating it only as a private project. We've completed a few projects recently, one in particular in Pilot, North Carolina, Pilot Mountain, the Surrey Pilot Center, which is a public-private project there. That's one in that the county actually partnered with the town of Pilot Mountain, as well as with the local community college system, as well as with some other entities. And that's an example of a project by carefully leveraging the stakeholders and needs of the broader county, they were able to establish a process with our help that resulted in them funding nearly completely the cost of the renovations to the building, and they've got two very successful programs in there right now. One is a community college satellite facility with a particular emphasis on nursing. The other is a community agriculture center, which was not incredibly popular in the planning phase with the farmers, but has turned out to be a huge success for the community and something that's done a lot to help with economic development. So without getting into detail, I'm not suggesting that's the exact right model for this, but I want to give some sense of the goal of what this process is to start to find a use or mix of uses that make sense both from a financial standpoint, from an economic development standpoint, and from a community improvement standpoint. That'll be the final piece of the puzzle. Yes?
I would like to ask a brief question about that. That was a building owned by the county,
Correct.
and the type of building it was?
It was, the building was not initially owned by the county. In terms of the partnership, what happened is Surrey County purchased the building as part of their economic development efforts. So in this case, you already own the building, obviously. The town of Pilot Mountain contributed upfront for design costs and a little bit of work. And then for the two major uses, basically, they received grants from the Rural Center, USDA, Golden Leaf, Covington Foundation. What else do we have in here?
Was it a historic building that they were trying to save, or just a building?
In this case, it was a old textile facility, so historic, not in the conventional sense. To some in historic preservation, it would be considered that, but it was not a historic tax credit project, if that's what you're asking. Older building, existing building, an important building in downtown that they wanted to do something with rather than let it sit vacant.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So in terms of process, we're about 6 weeks into the process. We've got a lot of our base information together. We've worked internally, and we're about to engage staff again to develop the public stakeholder process and work through and come back to y'all with some proposals, probably the end of October to mid-November. Okay. Any questions?
When are you looking at coming and doing the holes and testing and stuff like that?
Ideally, we would like to come back probably the second to last or last week of October, if that's acceptable. And the holes we're talking about are small, 4-inch, 6-inch square holes, basically so we can analyze the amount of deflection on interior surfaces for the most part.
When will you be able to provide us with an estimate of the potential renovation costs?
All of the cost for the structural renovations will be estimated as part of this phase. The cost for the overall renovation will be tied directly to the ultimate use of the building. So for this phase, what we are planning to come back is one or more scenarios for possible programmatic uses for the building. And we could provide a range of estimated costs for those, but it will vary ultimately depending on what you choose to do with the building.
As far as providing the county with a list of potential financial sources, will you be able to help us with that during this phase?
Yes, that's included as an initial study. It's important to keep in mind that a lot of grants and funding sources are again tied specifically to programming, so depending on the ultimate use of the building, it's generally a different funding mix that we would look at. Given your county, given its history, given its rural nature, there are a lot of entities that we think are strong candidates for. The other thing I might mention, we work with a woman named Helen Ruth Allman who works a lot with the Rural Center, Department of Agriculture. She worked with us on the Pilot Center. She's actually working with us now in Stokes County, which is a different facility, again, very small community, doing an art center there, and she would be very interested as we progress. We've already started talking with her, coming to meet with you, because she's a great point person in terms of assembling the mix and kind of serving as a coordinator in that regard to help bring some of these things to reality.
Last question. Would you be interested in attending our first Old Courthouse Advisory Committee meeting? We have not set it up yet. We're just getting established. or you will be calling, in other words, we'll be contacting you when you set your meetings, or would you be interested in attending?
Our interest is in helping the county in any way we can. It's obviously an important building for the county in terms of historic and cultural reasons, and our goal with all projects like this is to find a win-win. So yes, we would be interested.
I think it might be good that we notify him of the meetings that we're going to have, in case that if, you know, you want to be a part of that and kind of see, you know, what directions we're going in and how we're being set up.
Okay. So then if I can recap quickly in summary, we've got a lot of the base information together. We feel pretty good about understanding the source of the structural challenges that you're facing. It's unusual compared to a lot of buildings, and we're going to do some additional evaluation to look at that. As part of that in the later phase, as I said, I think we need to add a small geotechnical component to see if we need to stabilize any work. Programming, we've got a lot of ideas already from the folks we've talked to, and we're ready to begin that process. So we're excited, and we look forward to it.
Okay, I think I'm going to serve on the committee that Commissioner Jordan was referring to, and we've got the names on the front of your sheet here that you handed out to us, and we'll be in, like Commissioner Jordan said, we'll be in contact with you folks about our schedule.
Great.
And the earlier we can get to working together, the better off we're going to be.
Agreed.
Because some of these granting options, you know, have an application date, application deadline, and then a funding deadline.
They
And
do.
I don't want any of those to go by.
Right.
So the sooner, the better on that. You'll be hearing from us real soon, right, Henry?
That's right.
We look forward to that. And then in terms of schedule, we had put the thing in. We're obviously flexible to work with you based on that, but we would agree the sooner the better. Based on the legwork we've seen or done, we think we see some opportunities that can work.
We want to capitalize on those opportunities.
Great. Thank you all very much. I
Thank you, Fred.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Commissioner Jordan, you want to just start talking about the courthouse committee while he's getting stuff closed down?
Okay. All right, at the last meeting, we asked the clerk to make advertisement in the paper and try to solicit any names that would be interested in serving on the advisory committee. And to date, we have, I don't know the exact number, but we have applications from Marie Allen. Got another one?
We got one in here, too.
Okay. All right. We got one from Marie Allen, Anthony Felton, Linda Hoffler, Sidney Pierce, Thomas Hill, Edith Seiling, Susan Schultes, Barbara Toady, Adam B. Williams, and County Commissioners Henry Jordan, Jack Owens, and John Horum have expressed a desire to serve on that committee. The first thing that...
We got one more here that come.
I got that one.
Okay, all right.
All right, I got that one. You have the applications in front of you, and I think the first thing we'd want to do is to make a decision on accepting the applicants as being appointed to the Old Courthouse Advisory Committee.
I would like to make one statement that there probably needs to be made. Three commissioners sitting in on a meeting like this could be an issue with public meetings. Y'all may consider that. With three of y'all sitting in the same meeting where you're dealing with government or county business, the three of y'all may want to make a decision on only two sitting in on this meeting.
I don't see that being a potential problem.
Well, I'm just,
I
the point of
understand.
the matter is the legal ethical issue that we're dealing with, and with three commissioners sitting in on a county meeting, that's not a publicized meeting, as a commissioner meeting, there's an issue there. But like I said.
We can give that consideration. County business would not be able to be discussed in meeting where you have three commissioners.
Well, if you're dealing with a county building on the spending of county funds, there's no way in the world you're gonna be able to do that without talking county business.
All right, well, we'll certainly take that in consideration.
Well, I'm not gonna be there, so it's you gentlemen's, decision to make.
But what we want to do now is, if you'll look over the applications and decide if we want to accept the applications, the applicants rather, then we need to move forward on that.
And also part of this is remember that three candidates, that one of these are also applicants for this committee. So with three commissioners and possibility of 4 or 6 commissioners on there, may be an issue. I'm just pointing this out.
Let me say this. We just got our legal counsel in. It's not up to speed on what we're talking about. The way the general statute reads is that public business cannot be carried on by commissioners without public notice. In other words, it has to be a notice to the general public that the commissioners are assembling to conduct business of the county. Now, if we have 3 commissioners sitting on a committee, then we could do a public notice, and if we did a public notice, then that would satisfy that. And I believe council would agree with me on that without doing a lot of research. So I think the safety net in this would be that if we do have 3 commissioners, let's make notification in the newspaper that we're going to have that committee meeting, and that would take out that issue.
Okay. Would that be a commissioner meeting?
The,
3 commissioners sitting on?
No.
Okay.
Pitt, is that
Not a
not,
commissioner.
because these 3 individuals also have another title that is called citizen? And acting in the capacity of a citizen could take precedence over acting in the capacity of a commissioner, because there will be no votes taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The issue is,
At a loss here, what y'all
We're-
talking about.
we're organizing the Old Courthouse Advisory Committee, which will be tasked with bringing forth suggestions on how we're going to move forward with the Old Courthouse and how we're going to use it, what end use we're going to have. We have citizens who have applied for being appointed on that committee. We also have 3 commissioners, and potentially another commissioner after the election. So in having 3 or more commissioners on a committee, all of a sudden now, it needs to be a public meeting. But if we just announce it as a public meeting, it's not a commissioners meeting. That would be all that we'd have to do, because we'd not be voting on county issues and that sort of thing. So I don't see an issue.
And so what your real issue is that you're trying to form a committee for the research on what should be done with the old courthouse, correct?
How we're going to move forward.
I'm with you on that, up to that point.
Right.
And that 3 of the commissioners have expressed an interest in being on that committee, correct?
Well, they're gonna be
Potentially 4.
potentially 4.
Okay, and other citizens, first of all, how many have y'all agreed upon to be on the committee? Or is there any limitation?
Henry and I have discussed
So I think we've got about 7, probably about 9 applicants.
outside of the commissioners.
In addition to the 4 commissioners?
Right. You've probably got 7, 8, or 9.
That's a
Nine-
committee of
I'm looking at
13.
9 applications. 3 commissioners have showed interest. It's a matter of 12. Henry, I think I commented to Henry one day, 9 or 11 committee members would be a big number, but certainly doable.
I guess the question, Mr. Counsel, is that as long as we advertise this meeting and make it known to the public, there is not an issue, because we have 3 commissioners sitting or more.
Correct.
So we make it public. Once we do that, then that takes away the issue of 3 or more commissioners participating in a meeting that could potentially discuss county issues.
Correct. That would exclude citizens, is your concern. This
Well,
way,
that,
by giving,
the fact that you would have 3 commissioners sitting on a committee that's gonna advise the Board of Commissioners that will actually vote on the issue. That's where I see the problem at, with 3 sitting commissioners, possibly 4 sitting on an advisory committee that's gonna advise the commissioners on how to vote. I can see that being a problem, but I'm not an attorney.
well, that's gonna depend on how many you have on that sitting committee, as whether or not those commissioners are gonna be a swing majority or not, too. You have to look at it from that standpoint.
I just, like I say, I just asked the question. If y'all feel comfortable with it, I can live with it.
It's almost like going to lunch and you got 3 commissioners sitting at lunch.
Do you realize how much trouble that caused about 15 years ago?
I know when all of them used to go to lunch after the meeting.
Like I said, do you remember how much trouble that caused 15 years ago?
No, not really, because I wasn't
There
interested.
there was a lot of interest about that. Earl, you probably would know some of the facts.
Henry, to exercise due caution and be on the side of, I think the public meeting is the appropriate way to go.
Oh, yeah, just
And we would advertise each time that we're gonna have a committee meeting so that the public would be aware and they could participate.
Correct.
All right. Thank you so much. All right,
All right.
having said that, I would ask that the board would look over the applicants and, Mr. Chairman, if you would entertain a motion for accepting those who have applied.
I will entertain the motion to accept the applicants that have applied for this commission. Do we have a second? I mean, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we accept the applicants and their names being Marie Allen, Anthony Felton, Linda Hopper, Sidney Pierce, Edith Sarling, Susan Schultes, Barbara Toady, Adam B. Williams, Thomas Hill, Commissioner Henry Jordan, Commissioner Jack Owens, and Commissioner John Horner.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor to accept the names as presented by the vice chair as the appointment to the committee for the old library, the old courthouse. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second.
Discussion.
Do we have a discussion?
Yes, sir. I don't have a problem with any of the names. The courthouse is in my district, so I believe I need to be one of the commissioners on there. I really have an issue with them being 3 commissioners there. And I waited to, to hear everybody out, and knowing that I was going to make this comment. It's perception, it's public perception. We want to get to these meetings. I've already written up some things about the way I want to see the meeting go. I want us to be effective. I want us to arrive at the meeting with an agenda, stay on the agenda, be concise, and conduct business. And if we record this as a public hearing, then the public has to be invited. And is that true?
That's true.
Yes.
They would have to be invited.
I really, when a committee is meeting, and maybe the committee wants to talk about fundraising, and they want to make a report that, hey, I've talked to Joe Smith, and Joe Smith is considering giving $50,000 to this meeting to this project. I can't make that comment in an open forum like that, because he's considering it. I mean, it's just one example of having you're going to handcuff a committee if you treat it that way.
Well, in reality, if it's a public meeting, then it would come under the general statute, and you could go into closed session. It could be handled just like a commissioner's meeting, and, you know.
That's the part that concerns me. It can be handled like a commissioner's meeting with 3 commissioners sitting on the seat. That's where I'm concerned.
The unfortunate thing, you're ignoring the fact that people exist as commissioners and as individuals, as citizens.
Well, there's also a fact that you took a sworn oath to deal with the laws in the county or the state. So that's another part of that.
That's correct.
And this is my opinion, and we've got a motion on the floor, and we're gonna take a vote, but I'm not gonna support it like this. I'm promising you that now.
Well, the thing about it, Mr. Chairman, is that the commissioners do not make up the majority of this committee. That's right. You're talking 3, possibly 4 commissioners out of a number of, 12? So you're not carrying a majority. So it's not like they would have the influence over the committee. But
Yes. Thomas, I believe I would like to hear that comment. Yes, I would. Being you're one of these on this list. Yes, sir. And you're running for an office, I feel like your comment is very valid.
Yes, sir. Allow me to go on the record with this. On Core Peak Day, the majority of you commissioners was at Core Peak Day, and I shook the majority of your hands on that day. There was 3 of you that I personally shook hands with.
At different times.
I understand this. I understand this. Legally, if I understand it right, it can be done as long as those 3, perhaps 4 commissioners, if only 2 of them voted on that specific decision. If you do not have 3 or more voting on a specific decision, it would not affect that particular county law or ordinance.
Yeah.
So if there was 4 commissioners that was on that particular part of the committee dealing with the old courthouse, as long as 2 of those commissioners out of the 4 were to vote on any specific decision making, that would be in compliance to the county ordinance, would it not? We have the privilege of having the attorney here, but that is my thought on the matter.
Well, I understand what your comment is, and we'll ask that. Is there anything else right now?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
I would be
sir.
in the support of having the county commissioners there.
That's what I needed. Okay, thank you,
Yes, sir,
Thomas.
thank you.
Kenny?
I understand what Thomas is talking about as far as that meeting, but when those 4 commissioners come back to this table, when the financing or whatever comes along, those commissioners are gonna be doing the talking.
They are the
and voting.
majority.
They're gonna be your majority. So them, only 2 of them voting over there doesn't mean anything. It's when they come back to this table to vote. I mean, it does mean something, but it doesn't mean as much as it might when it gets back here.
And hopefully they'd be more informed.
All right, we've got a motion on the table.
Sir, if I may, very quickly. I understand that. I understand that they would be here, but at the end of the day, they represent the people.
Okay.
And if we do not like their decision, we can vote them out.
We
So
understand.
I would leave that idea with you all.
We understand that, Thomas.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor that will allow for the, how did we number we
And the
had?
motion is to approve the list of
To
9
approve the
people.
list as presented, which included the citizens and 3 commissioners. Do I have a second on that motion? We did have a second, right?
Yes.
I think we need to take this by hands. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same thing. Would you like to amend make another motion to amend
how many do you have?
your list? We hit this 3-2 against the committee, yes, sir.
I think we table it for
So
a while.
Jack voted against it, Kenny voted against it, I voted against it.
Okay, so we had 2 to 3.
2 to 3.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
let's table it a while.
Mr.
The
Chairman,
committee as presented.
Mr.
I
Chairman,
think we need to deal with it.
Jack?
I would like to make a motion. I want
I'll
to
table.
move on this committee. okay, get it established so we can start working with these people.
Excuse me, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me make a comment rather than a motion first. I appreciate Pitt's advice over there. I think we have authorities in Raleigh that could speak to this topic, probably have encountered it, other times, and, there's an ethical code here. We don't need to jeopardize the integrity of the committee. We're trying to do this, to save this courthouse. Somewhere along the way, we're going to appeal to the citizens of the county, and if they have a bad taste in their mouth, because we've got 4 commissioners over there in that meeting, we may not get the support that we're hoping for. I think we have to guard the integrity of those meetings, guard the integrity of this board. And if our folks in Raleigh, there in local government, the attorneys there, if they say, oh, no problem, then I'll be for it. But if they say it's tainted, it's stained, you're in jeopardy and can show me why, then I'm going to take that advice.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say, first of all, Commissioner Owens has stated that he feels he needs to be on the committee, and I certainly respect that. I'm willing to step aside for the sake of moving forward. We need to get organized. I will be involved and will attend the meetings. But I'll step aside as a commissioner serving on that committee, and that will take away, you won't have 3 commissioners on the committee.
Mr. Jordan?
Yeah.
Well, and I appreciate that too from the standpoint, but regardless of the situation here, come December, this is going to change. Because there's only, really.
In December, we'll deal with it but we're dealing with it now, Johnny, and you'll have, right now, you'll have 4 people possibly on this commission.
That's correct.
And then you're gonna be dealing
The
with-
only 2 people that are going to be here in December for sure are Jack and I.
Kenny.
Well,
we-
Kenny is not on the committee.
Kenny done been voted out, bud.
No, he don't
We
want it.
need to move forward. I'm willing to take away one of the names. As a matter of fact, we may want to, for now, this is an organizational meeting. We may want to even hold off 2 names. And we can certainly add to the committee once we get further advice or from the School of Government. I think it was Dan Moore.
Dan, you got,
I just got a comment. I was involved with some committees at one time, and we had non-voting members of the committee. So the 4 commissioners, to me, could still sit on that, because this is an advisory commission, and then put it in your paperwork that they have no vote.
Dan, I think, and I don't have the problem with the voting in the committee meeting itself. The problem I've got is coming from a committee meeting to sit at this table to vote on the finance and as a commissioner, as being part of both. If we were to have 3 of our Gates County commissioners sitting on the Albemarle Commission board, or 3 sitting on some of these other smaller boards, that could make a big difference in decisions about money being spent. I think it muddies the water to look at that. That's my opinion. But I think at this point in time, you've been around long enough to understand what I'm saying about the meeting before the meeting. And that, if you got a meeting before the meeting, you actually do have a meeting before the meeting, before commissioners sitting in a meeting.
All right. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I would like to have our attorney call the Institute of Government to ask this question and bring it back to us at our very next meeting. Or I know it delays the process probably some, but I feel like it's really needed to find out exactly where the commissioners stand on it.
Commissioner Jernigan, let me offer this. How about if all three commissioners, none of us put in the application?
Right.
Only applications been put in are the citizens. Let us move forward with the organizational meeting approving these applicants. Go to Pitt,
That's
our
fine.
council, and have him bring back a decision as to how they feel we should
Right.
move forward in allowing commissioners. This way, we can set up our organizational meeting. We want to contact Reed Thomas, who is a preservation specialist, and have him come to that first meeting to help us get organized and establish our purpose, officers and that sort of thing, and then based on our council.
I have no problem with that, but I think Pitt needs to.
Kenny,
find out exactly
this is a book here based on, let me read this comment on this issue. It says, it's a comment, it says, on the whole,
What page?
page 3 of, this book right here.
Page, what page?
It says page 3. On the whole, rules of procedure of government boards are intended to govern formal meetings of the board where it will exercise any of its executive or legislative powers. These rules fulfill that purpose and also are designed to ensure board compliance with open meeting laws. Through the numbers they give are 143-318.9 through 318.18, which applies to any gathering of the majority of the board to discuss public business. The rules also apply to informal work sessions of a committee meeting where public business is discussed, but no official action is taken. How do you interpret that, Pitt? I just don't want none of y'all to end up in jail.
Well, we can solve that. All we got to do is just move forward with the applicants we have and just leave the commissioners off until we come back with a recommendation from council. And that way we can get our organizational meeting started and get Reed Thomas here, start officers in place. I don't foresee any of the commissioners holding an office in the advisory committee, but because we need to move forward.
All right, Pitt.
Last paragraph would say if you're discussing any county business, that you shouldn't wear two hats, the way I look at it. But I agree with Henry as far as getting the ball rolling.
I agree with that too, Henry. My opinion is we need to get started.
Well, let me make another motion.
All right.
I make a motion that we approve or accept the applicants who requested to be on the old courthouse renovation advisory committee, being Marie Allen, Anthony Felton, Linda Hoffa, Sidney Pierce, Edith Siling, Susan Schultes, Barbara Toady, Adam B. Williams, and exclude the commissioners at this point. Of course, we could participate, we could attend the meeting, but we would not be on the committee.
You didn't put Linda's name, did you? You didn't call her?
I said Linda Hoffa, didn't
Did
I?
you?
I thought I did.
All right, so you made a motion that we accept the citizens that have applied to sit on this committee at this time to get the committee started.
Yes.
All right, do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Okay.
All right, thank
All
you.
right.
That was unanimous?
That was unanimous.
Okay. The second part of this is that we need to establish an organizational meeting date. I have suggested, and I was doing this kind of on my schedule, you may want to get with those who, if there's some different input, we could consider that. But October 31st, November 1st, November 5th, or November 8th at 6:30. We would contact Reed Thomas, who's a renovation specialist, and He's already said that he would certainly assist us, but see if he would be available for one of those dates. And upon getting his response, you would again notify the committee of the date that Reed Thomas is available, and would set up the first meeting if none of the committee members had any conflict with those dates.
Commissioner Jordan, I'd like to suggest that we instruct the secretary, clerk, I should say, to notify these people by mail of those potential dates and a location of that meeting and the time.
And then have her contact which would be the best date.
Right.
Would anyone like to suggest a location at this time?
Well, I thought about the courthouse, but, you know,
Probably need to start, I would start in the commissioner room, here at the courthouse.
If the dates are on Wednesday, the courthouse would be open at that time. I mean, the library. You could use the courtroom upstairs.
yeah.
Would,
But I,
how would the board feel about, you know, Henry sort of spearheading here at this point? How would the board feel about, you know, when that group gathers there, they need a moderator at least in that first meeting so that they can talk about officers and potentially select a chairperson. I would have no problem at all with Henry moderating that meeting so that meeting could be productive. I'd like to hear if anybody else had any opposition to that or thought it was a good idea.
I have no problem with it. I think it's probably a good idea.
I'll make that motion on Henry attending that meeting as a moderator. Make that a motion.
We've got a motion to allow Henry to, not to allow, but for Henry to act as a moderator at the committee that we have just appointed.
first meeting.
First meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, like sign. All right. All right. Anything else on this issue, Henry?
That's all that I have. I did notice that all of the applicants, I believe, have email addresses, so we can use that as a source of communication as well, Madam Clerk. Yes.
Okay. Anything else on this issue? If not, we'll move on to new business. We've only got one thing on the new business, and I'll be handling that. Last meeting, we had Mr. Roundtree come here and brought to the attention of the board one of our citizens, F.J. Outland, and recognizing his service to the country on the USS Indianapolis. After talking to each of the commissioners individually, we had a resolution drawn for us to adopt today, if the board so chooses. I want to read this resolution. This resolution honoring the USS Indianapolis, CA 35 and crew. Whereas the USS Indianapolis served as the delivery vehicle for the world's first ever functioning atomic bomb to the island of Tentney in July 26, 1945. Whereas after completion of this mission, which was severely dangerous yet necessary, the ship set out for its next mission from Guam to the Philippines on July 29, 1945. Whereas 14 minutes past midnight, July 30, 1945, the USS Indianapolis was attacked by the Japanese submarines. Whereas as a result of this attack, of the 1,196 on board, only 900 entered the water as the ship sank, and only 317 of those survived this nearly 5 days of shark-infested ocean. Whereas of these 317 patriots, that survived the horrendous ordeal. One of them was Gates County's own F.J. Outland Sr. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners for the County of Gates hereby honors the sacrifice of those lost through this terrible act, and furthermore recognize the living legend and the priceless treasure of Mr. F.J. Outland Sr. as a mere token of appreciation. And as a resolute mandate, we order that the rendering of the USS Indianapolis and the marker denoting the accomplishment of F.J. Outland Sr. be placed in a position of prominence in a county facility. Many of the people of the Gates of this county, state, and nation never forget the sacrifices made by the USS Indianapolis, nor the value that F.J. Outland Sr. has made during his life to the freedom and security that we as American citizens possess. In the County of Gates, adopted on this day, the 4th of... Third of October, 2012, Gates County Board of Commissioners. Do I have a motion that we,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
before
sir.
you go, you probably need to add A in there, in a shark-infested ocean.
Okay, we'll make sure we get the writing. All right. Do we have a motion to accept this resolution as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Oh,
Got a couple, did you get the N.A. shark-infested?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
all right. All right, the next thing, we've got citizens' comments. I've got a few more left here. All right, the second citizens' comments first is Mr. Anthony Felton.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Anthony.
There was two questions that was asked to me to bring up to y'all. Do we have a timeline when the, or date when the new library and the credit union will be open?
And now we're looking at around the 1st of November, 1st of December.
Both of those?
What was the other one?
The credit union?
will be open before that. They're looking, the last they told me was somewhere the 1st of November, they're hoping.
Okay. This other thing I want to bring about is, you know, during the election times, we have, you know, signs that go missing and all. I was wondering if we can have like something to paper, like dealing with, you know, consequences if somebody was to steal signs and stuff.
There are state regulations dealing with that.
I was wondering if we can put that in the paper so anybody who decides on, you know, committing these acts.
Yeah, I think.
I think that's good. I think the Board of Elections is probably the place to take that concern, though.
Okay.
Talk to Mr. Sears and get it done.
Because I noticed, you know, during election time last year and the year before, you know, I've been noticing signs going missing, and even though, you know, it doesn't, you know, even, you know, it doesn't matter who it is, you know, I've always contacted them, letting them know, hello, your sign, you know, gone missing and all.
Thank you, Anthony.
Okay.
Thomas Hill?
I'd like to piggyback very quickly on what Mr. Felton just said. I think that is an important issue. I think that's a bipartisan issue. I think that when you do go to the election board, I will go with you as bipartisan, and I'd like to see that happen. Just very quickly, finishing up comments here. Once again, I want to go on record as far as the commissioners being a part of the courthouse. I think that there is nothing wrong with them sitting into it. However, the law would state about having two or less than three, that is, as long as they're not voting on that specific issue within the committee. Legally, there's, if I'm reading it correctly, and I've had other lawyers take a look at it, if we are looking at it correctly, there is nothing illegal about that. However, finishing up the day at hand, having the endorsement of Pat McCory and his campaign, and likewise are working with this campaign, I would like to remind you all that November 6th is the election day. We have a very important election. Never has there been so many local issues been contrasted. Never have we ever had a time of a Republican ticket, a Republican ticket. After 132 years, it is good to have that voice, that freedom of speech, that other option. And I would just ask that you all consider the Republican Party. As me and Sydney go around the campaign trail and knock on doors, we are asking for your vote. And keep in mind of the Pat McCory campaign for governor. And of course, the others like Ted Tedesco, the support that he has for the junior ROTC, or John Tedesco, my apologies. But having his support for the junior ROTC is priceless, and we look forward to working with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. And last on the list, Mr. Earl Roundtree would like to speak again.
I'm gonna hurry up because I know you got things to do. I hate to see a $500 hour lawyer sitting around with nothing to do.
Probably more than that, but we won't discuss that.
Well, that's what he charges me. Real quick, Graham, did you write that resolution?
Actually, Toby wrote that resolution.
I thought it had to be him or Diane, but it was great. I certainly couldn't have done any better. I don't think I could have done any as good, and I think Cal couldn't have done any better. I can't have, y'all put everything in it. I didn't mention that earlier. But what I said, March the 17th, which is a long ways off, but the museum has cleared this. We're having the F.J. Outland birthday party, recognition of the men of the USS Indianapolis. My biggest problem is that I got to put forth a program, and but it will. We got this on a Sunday. It's F.J.'s birthday, and it will be at the museum. But this will all be out later. The other thing is that I wanted to have this picture and plaque done right away, but I'm having a problem with the picture, and I may end up having to go to the Navy Department to get what I want. And in order to do that, I'm probably going to have to go through Congressman Jones's office, who said that they would probably contact some important admiral up there in Washington, D.C., and get one like we wanted. But I'm moving on it, Graham. But I like to get it done, but I can't get it done. But what I wanted to say real quick, coming to all these meetings, there's some statements that are being made, that are made quite often in here, that sort of irritate me. And that is that people come up here and start constantly telling us how poor Gates County is. And I think somebody said this, Jack, years ago, and then everybody keeps repeating it. We're not up there with $1 million homes like Toby's used to, but we survive. And as Mike Conner used to say when he was with the school board, and we used to talk a lot, he says, some of us don't mind paying a little bit more in taxes so that we can enjoy the freedom that we have down here. We're talking about the wildlife, the farming, and all that. But what I wanted to say was, it was brought up in here today, and of course, Mr. Hoare and I both talk about this all the time. Henry and the rest of you, we want to keep the debt down, we want to keep the taxes down, and at the same time, the citizens demand services. And that's a balancing act, isn't it, Kenny?
Yes, it is.
It's a balancing act. But I will say that we always talking about, well, if we get more industry, if we get more of this, we'll have more tax money. Pasquotank County, which has a super Walmart, and the guy gave me the figure, and I can't repeat it, but it's in millions of dollars that Pasquotank County gets in sales tax from one super Walmart. If we had one super Walmart, we wouldn't even need taxes, Toby. But the point is, Pasquotank County has $74 million in debt, which works out to be about $1,500 per every living person in Pasquotank County. Whereas Gates County it's got about less than 8 million, around 8 million. And Johnny, I didn't have no calculator, but I sit back here and done it. That works out to be about $650 a person. So you see, a lot of times we're a whole lot better off here than we think we are if you sit down. The lady come up here one time and said that, 20% of the people in Gates County were going hungry. And I kept asking people, where did she get that figure from? I don't believe it. If anybody in my neighborhood was going hungry, I'd go feed them. But people will just repeat things like that. And so our taxes, our debt load per citizen in Gates County is half what it is in Pasquotank, Graham.
Thank you, Earl. All right, now we're going to move on to our citizens' comments.
Commissioners.
Oh, I'm sorry, commissioner comments. All right, Kenny, you want anything?
Thank everybody for coming, and the one, especially for the ones that have stayed the whole time. It's really a pleasure to see the faces of the people that are interested, that come all the time. It's sometimes I know we get blamed for not feeling that way, but it is a fact, and I thank you.
Jack?
It's good to be here today. I do want to remind everybody that there's a debate tonight on TV, but there is also a North Carolina gubernatorial debate. And if anybody wants to share what channel it's on, I'm not sure, but it comes on at 7 o'clock. Channel 2. Okay. So please look at it. It's very important. It's a great opportunity for us here in the East to get informed before we go to the polls, and will give us an opportunity to ask questions after that. So I want to encourage everybody tonight to spend a couple hours looking at that. I'm encouraged about our comments today about the planning board. Had an opportunity at the break to talk to Linda and Chuck just a little bit, and Joe Green as well, and gave a couple of them an idea or two to report back to us. And I know everybody's encouraged, looking forward to the day when we have these things behind us. They are important when you're talking about the future of the county and the development. We don't need to rush into it, but in 120 days or less, I hope we do have some resolution. Thank you to everybody for coming.
Thank you, Jack. Johnny?
Yeah, I thank all of those people that are here today, and those that stay, of course, and especially those of your residents that continually come out here, and that's taking interest and listening to what goes on. I'll expand on what Earl said a little bit, just a little bit about Gates County. It is kind of misleading a little bit when you look at the numbers. In Gates County, basically, we are better off than most everyone that all of our surrounding counties from a personal income thing. But however, we do have a problem, and really where that comes from is really the distribution aspects of it. And if you're familiar with the bell curve, what's happening in Gates County is a flat bell curve, rather than tightening up the curve so that you have more of a smaller range. We have a large range that expands from here to there, but the average comes up well. So that's something that you had to be cognizant about. How do you do that? It's how did Pasquotank County get into the debt that they are? Well, it comes from people not managing government like they manage a business. If you manage government like that, like California and some of the New York and some of these other states out there that just break themselves because they don't make good financial business decisions. And it's a shame. But it continuously, just like I said, you can't make $22,000 and spend $38,000. You just can't sustain that. It don't happen. And people have to realize that, and you have to take personal responsibility for that. And how do we do that? It's a difficult thing, and it starts from kids. I mean, just discipline children and taking responsibility. And I just see that so much, everything with young people and all, just don't understand that concept. You know, it just takes good, sound physical principles and economic principles to take and grow and make yourself expand. And like's been said here today, you don't jump so fast. You take it slow and gradual. You earn more to make more. You had to spend money to make money, has been said, and you do. But you have to take wise investments to do that. So I think we've done that fairly in Gates County. There are some things that we can do to expand our base, I think, and making us a little bit more attractive to some of these people that can generate revenue from us. And it's not retail, ladies and gentlemen, it's manufacturing. Retail comes after manufacturing. It just happens that way. You can look at it in Franklin, Virginia. You can look at it in Suffolk. It happens that way. So I will continue to push that mindset, and I think it's a winning principle. It's been proven time and time again. So I thank you for coming. Appreciate you, and I hope everyone, of course, has a happy Halloween, which we'll have before our next meeting. Thank you.
Henry?
All right, I too appreciate everyone who's come today, and I appreciate all the comments, and certainly the comments have been heard, and we want to do due diligence in considering everything that's been said. I do remind everyone, as they've been reminded already, it's election time. I do thank everyone for the support that I've been given, and you know, as we go through this election, let's take a look at who the candidates are and what we've done, and you know, commitment, dedication, to me, are very important. I retired after 30 years of service in federal government, and you know, commitment is important. Dedication, due diligence, all these things are important when you consider the issues that are at hand, and those are the kind of people that you look for if you want to serve for you. I would mention that in getting a picture of the USS Indianapolis, when I retired, I got a picture of a submarine, and I looked, I thought it was the USS Indianapolis, when I was looking at it the other day. I guess it's probably about 24 by 18, maybe, or a little larger. But certainly I have contacts where we could probably get a copy of the USS Indianapolis, and I'll start working on that. Because the one I have doesn't have that it is, so we want to make sure we get the actual picture of it. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Have a great day.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for being here. I thank for the concern that people show to Gates County. It shows here every meeting day. A little special thing I'd like to thank Miss Annie sitting there. She works with the GEMS program to feed the people that need something to eat. She does a good job. I was at a meeting over there a few weeks ago. They showed us what they did, what they had. They do a lot with little, trying to help people with groceries. If there's anything that anybody can do as far as donating food or something, I think they would appreciate it. I've got a refrigerator that I've put together to carry out there, so they'll be able to keep some cold items. I'm going to put that in this week. And Miss Annie does a good job out there, and I'm proud to be associated with her and knowing her for what she does for the citizens of Gates County, some of the people that actually live in trailers and need help. So y'all, appreciate y'all being here today. Thank you. We have a motion to go into closed session as by General Statute 143-318.11A6.
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, on the issue of whether we will, the direction we're going to take on the county manager position, do we have a motion?
Interim.
The county manager interim position.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we proceed with using an interim county manager, contacting them from the list that was provided, and upon interview with them, we'll make that selection.
All right, we've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
On a motion and a second, I'd like to have this by raise of the right hand. All in favor, raise right hand. All opposed, like What are you doing? Where you at?
Is it yes or no?
That's no. Oh, well,
All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. All opposed, right hand. All right, if nothing else, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.